Hello everyone, here we are back with another anime summary of this channel. This is my second video of the anime summary series, and in this video we are going to look at an anime called as Highschool of the Dead. At the beginning of this semester, Takashi Komura has a social separation with his childhood friend Rei Miyamoto. When he goes outside to mop, he witnesses a zombie, currently known as them, attack at the front of the school. Takashi goes to warn Rei and his best friend Hisashi Igo, who is dating Rei, and escapes with them just before the news of attack spreads across the school, causing panic. The three runs into Mr. Wakisaka, a teacher turned zombie that bites Hisashi in the arm before Takashi kills it by smashing its head. They barricade themselves onto the rooftop to witness self-defense force helicopters flying into the combat with zombie outbreak in the city, oblivious to the carnage in the school. Hisashi begins succumbing to his injuries now, and Takashi is forced to kill him despite Rei's objections. Rei insults Takashi now, and he almost leaves to face them all alone. After she apologizes, Rei and Takashi embrace briefly as two other survivors, Saya Takagi and Kouta Hirano, try to avoid the zombies. Rei tries to contact her father, who tells her that city is in complete chaos before being cut off. Meanwhile, Kendo Club president Saeko Busujima saves the school nurse Shizuka Marikawa from the zombies attacking her. Kouta manages to piece together a nail gun while Takashi and Rei manages to stop the zombies on their end. As Kouta runs out of ammunition and Saya starts to buckle under pressure, the other survivors joins them to take out the zombies. As they make plans to journey to the Takashi's home to check out on the safety of their families, they learn that the outbreak is much more worse than they thought. The survivors are shocked to learn that the zombie pandemic has spread worldwide. After encountering another group of survivors, Takashi tests a theory on avoiding the zombies based on how they can only react to sound. However, when one of the survivors accidentally makes a sound, they have to fight through a horde on the way to the bus, losing some of the survivors in the process. When they spot another group of survivors approaching them, Rei recognizes one of the teachers, Koichi Shido, and is hesitant about letting him on board. After breaking out of the school, Rei becomes defiant about Shido appointing himself as the leader and runs off the bus. As Takashi goes after her, a bus filled with zombies crashes and traps them in a tunnel, forcing them to meet up with other survivors later. After defeating a zombie motorcyclist, Takashi and Rei finds their motorcycle and heads toward the city. A recapitulation of the past events is shown from Takashi's perspective. Takashi and Rei continues moving through the city until they encounter a police car. With the occupants dead, Rei searches the vehicle and gathers an expandable baton, a revolver and some bullets. The latter stops at a gas station to refill the gas fuel tank. As Takashi goes to a cash register nearby to operate the gas pump, Rei is attacked by an insane survivor who holds her hostage and sexually groups her. Takashi quickly shoots him point blank, allowing Rei to break free. With their motorcycle refueled, Takashi and Rei begins moving again as they leave survivors to die in the hands of incoming zombies. At Kansai International Airport, Rika Minami and her squad from the Special Assault Team helps in the evacuation of civilians by clearing zombies at the runway. Meanwhile, after escaping from the war zone between mad survivors and zombies, Takashi and Rei learns that all the bridges have been blocked by the police and military to prevent infected civilians from coming in. Realizing nothing good is gained by staying with Shido, it is then that Saya, Kouta, Saeko and Shizuka leaves the bus after Kouta forcefully persuades them and heads to Onbetsu Bridge, where they encounter more zombies and are rescued by timely arrival of Takashi and Rei. Needing a place to stay for the night, Shizuka suggests that they stay at the apartment where her friend Rika lives. With zombies infesting around the building, the group heads inside it and fights them. With the apartment cleared now, the girls refresh themselves in the bath while the boys check out the weapons and ammunition in the household. Meanwhile, the police at the blockade are coming under pressure from both zombies and the civilians trying to escape them, including a group of protesters led by conspiracy theorists who believes that epidemic is a biological weapon of the US and Japanese government. With no help coming from headquarters, the police are ordered to use deadly force to maintain order at the blockade. Back at the apartment, Takashi has to deal with Rei and Shizuka, who are both drunk. After an argument between them, Rei starts to come onto Takashi, but he holds her back. Just then, a dog, later recognized as Zero, starts barking outside, which starts to attract the zombies. While Takashi and other keeps their light low while surveying the situation, a man tries to find shelter for his daughter Alice Marisato, but is killed by paranoid survivors. Takashi decides to go to rescue her while Kouta provides sniper support. Meanwhile, the girls decides that they can no longer stay at the apartment, prepared to load up to move on. With the streets filled with zombies, Takashi, along with Alice and Zero, carefully crosses the top of the fence until other survivors help them. Once reunited, they all decide to head towards the other side of the river. Now the zombies manage to infiltrate and infect Air Force One, with the chairman and the president being infected too. The chairman begs to the president to launch their ICBMs in his belief that the other countries will launch there at the US, as he is finished off before turning into a zombie. Meanwhile, Takashi's group reaches on the other side of the river, void of any civilians or zombies. After changing and getting familiar with new weapons, they decide to head towards Saya's house first, since it is nearby. They start to find more zombies as they approach their destination, and an unexpected wire barrier causes Rei to fall off the Humvee. The others have to deal with unfamiliar weapons and their own courage in order to fend off the zombies. Outnumbered by the zombies now, Takashi and Saeko try to lead them away, but they are still drawn towards the direction of the others. As things are looking bad now, they are assisted by a group of firefighters led by Saya's mother, Yuriko Takagi, while Takashi and Saeko takes a different route. In this different route, Takashi and Saeko acquires an amphibious vehicle to help evade the zombies and set up a sandbank in the middle of the river. Later, they ditch their vehicles in the park fountain to lure the zombies while Saeko attacks them. However, Saeko freezes when she comes across some zombie children, forcing Takashi to help her. They decide to camp out at a shrine where Saeko reveals that she almost killed a rapist 4 years ago yet enjoyed it, saying she had not changed since that day and does not deserve love. To calm her down, Takashi responds by kissing her, however. The next morning, as zombies starts to surround them, Saeko, hating the sadistic side of herself, gives in and refuses to fight back. Takashi tells her that he has always admired her, giving her the motivation to defeat the zombies with the real sword. Accepting their dark sides, Takashi and Saeko safely arrives at Saya's house. Having spent a day at Saya's mansion, which has been heavily fortified, the group needs to decide if they should stick with her family and staff to be treated as kids or go off on their own to retain their independence. Saya is mad at her father for presuming that she was dead during the outbreak while taking actions to safeguard the neighbors. But Takashi snaps at her since her parents are proven to be alive, which calms her down too. Saya's father, Shoichiro Takagi, a Japanese right-wing nationalist politician, arrives and executes his zombie friend in front of the survivors at the mansion to show them their current situation. Kouta, not wanting to lose his guns and become useless, refuses to give up on his guns to Soichiro's men. When Soichiro arrives to question Kouta, the other comes to defend his place. Meanwhile, one of the students who stayed with the Shido reports the situation with the mansion to Shido himself, who is presiding over an orgy between students. Saya tries to calm down a group of survivors who refuse to accept their current situation. Now at this point, Takashi is appointed the leader by the others, much to his surprise. Soichiro later gives Saeko a prized katana as thanks for protecting his daughter and gratitude to Saeko's father for teaching him. As the group makes plans to go and rescue their remnant families, Shido and his following arrives at the mansion, to which an angry Rei charges up to him with her bayonet. Rei then reveals that she hates Shido because his father, a corrupt politician, asked him to force Rei to repeat a year as revenge against her father, who was investigating him for corruption. Soichiro arrives and tells Rei that Shido's fate is in her hand, but Rei decides that he is not worth killing, which Soichiro and Shido and his followers leave as they have become more corrupt. Elsewhere, a US submarine has been given orders by succeeding president to launch a controversial primitive nuclear strike at China, North Korea and Russia. while at the same time the crew at the International Space Station watches in horror as both the US and Russia launches their ICBMs at each other. The US and Japanese naval forces are forced to team up to shoot down Chinese missile strikes, as China has launched a mix of its DF-21 ballistic missile variants in retaliation to the now failed American primitive nuclear strikes. However, one missile manages to penetrate through the joint of US-Japanese air defenses, exploding somewhere in Japan. Due to the EMP burst from the nuclear explosion, machines and electronics near the blast break down, which causes Shido's burst to crash and destroy one of its barricades. With a giant horde of zombies coming to the mansion, Soichiro orders the main gate to be closed, but the overwhelming zombies breach the gate, causing panic among the survivors. Even the people who opposed Soichiro and heckled Saya, Kouta and Takashi in the previous episode were killed. With the mansion no longer safe, the Takagis ordered their followers to remain survivors to fight and head to another safe area that has yet to be breached. The Takagis leave Saya's safety to Takashi and the group as they fight their Humvee, which was not affected by EMP. With their ride fixed now, the group leaves the mansion while the survivors fight off the horde. Despite the situation, the group remains optimistic as they finally arrive at a mall by foot. The end. I know that it was an abrupt end, but there are some OVAs which can give you some more satisfaction to the ending of this anime. And I think that was for today's video, guys. That was the video about the summary of the whole anime of High School of the Dead. What are your thoughts about this video? What are your thoughts about this anime? Have you watched this anime? If you have watched it, then let me know about your thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I post daily anime content about top 10 top 5 listings, anime reviews, recommendations, news, theories, and now also summaries like this on this YouTube channel. So if you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and that was it, and I will see you in the next one. Sayonara.